Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the press conference on the performance of the Philippine economy for the second quarter of 2016. I am Dean Villanueva of the Philippine Statistics Authority, and I'll be the moderator of this press conference. Let me now introduce to you the officials of NEDA and PSA as our presenters and resource persons. We have Socio-Economic Planning Secretary and NEDA Director General Ernesto M. Pernia. PSA National Statistician Lisa Grace S. Bersales. NEDA Acting Deputy Director General Rosemary G. Edelion. And PSA Deputy National Statistician Romeo S. Resido. To start our press conference, please welcome Dr. Lisa Grace Bersales, PSA National Statistician, for the presentation of the performance of the Philippine economy second quarter 2016.
Good morning, everybody. The PSA is pleased to report the performance of the Philippine economy for the second quarter of 2016. The gross domestic product, or GDP, grew year-on-year by 7.0% in the second quarter of 2016. This is higher than 5.9% growth in the same period last year. Net primary income, or NPI, from the rest of the world improved by 6.2% compared with 2.5% last year, driving the gross national income, or GNI, to expand by 6.8% compared with the previous year's 5.4%. For the first semester of 2016, GDP grew by 6.9%. This is higher than its 5.5% growth for the same semester of the previous year. GNI went up by 7.1%, higher than its 4.8% growth in the first semester of 2015. NPI accelerated by 8.0%. This is higher than its 1.5% growth in the same period last year. The second quarter growth was driven by the services sector, which expanded by 8.4% compared with a 6.7% in the same period of last year. This was followed by the industry sector, which grew by 6.9%, higher than its 6.1% growth in 2015. Meanwhile, the agriculture sector further declined by 2.1% compared with the negative 0.1% in the second quarter of 2015. With the country's projected population reaching 103.0 million in the second quarter of 2016, per capita GDP grew by 5.2% compared with 4.2% in the same quarter of 2015. Per capita GNI increased by 5.1%, higher than its last year's growth of 3.6%. Likewise, per capita household final consumption expenditure, or HFCE, expanded by 5.6% compared with 4.7% growth last year. Among the three major economic sectors, services gave the highest contribution to the GDP growth in the second quarter of 2016, accounting for 4.8 percentage points. This was followed by industry with 2.3 percentage points, while agriculture pulled down the GDP growth with negative 0.2 percentage point. On the demand side, the highest growth among the expenditure items was recorded by durable equipment at 42.8%. This was followed by imported goods at 22.9%, exports of services at 15.3%, construction at 14.1%, and government final consumption expenditure at 13.5%. For the second quarter of 2016, Major contributors to the GDP growth from the expenditure side were fixed capital formation at 5.7 percentage points, household final consumption expenditure at 4.9 percentage points, government final consumption expenditure at 1.6 percentage points. The PSA appreciates your presence in the second quarter National Accounts Press Conference, and we look forward to meeting you again on November 17 this year when we report the performance of the Philippine economy for the third quarter. Thank you, and maraming buntag sa inyo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rosales. Now we shall hear the statement of Dr. Ernesto Pernia, Socio-Economic Planning Secretary and Meta Director General.
The TV or the networks, members of the media, colleagues of in government, and the other guests here. Good morning, may buntag kanatong tanan. The 7% growth in the second quarter of 2016 is an upbeat start for the current administration. The growth is within the market expectations, given that the average consensus forecast of 6.1 to 7.2% for the second quarter. Many of these who gave the forecast are international outfits. This strong growth increases the probability of our attaining the revised full year 2016 DBCC, Development Budget Coordinating Committee, approved real growth projection of 6 to 7% this year. With the first semester GDP growth of 6.9%, the economy will need to grow by at least 5.1% in the second half of the year to attain at least the low end of the growth target, which is 6%. While it is normal to see a slowdown in the second semester during election years, possibly by 1.5 to 2.0 percentage points lower than the first half, the smooth transition of power and assurance of macroeconomic policy consistency and continuity by the new administration will likely keep business and consumer confidence strong to meet the full year target. Among the major emerging economies, Asian economies, the Philippines likely remains the fastest or second fastest, at least, growing economy in the second quarter of 2016, followed by China, which grew at 6.7%, Vietnam at 5.6%, Indonesia at 5.2%, and Malaysia by 4.0%, and Thailand by 3.5%. The data for Indonesia are not yet available, but some forecasts put the number or the figure above 7%. The previous administration gave us a strong and stable economy that we can build on further by maintaining the sound macroeconomic, fiscal, and monetary policies already in place. It is also encouraging to note that the growth has been investment-driven. However, the challenge is to make this growth inclusive so that more people contribute to and benefit from it. For this, we must improve competitiveness of our markets and business climate to take advantage of the new stage of investments in the region. Importantly, we must look at the sectors and geographic areas that have been lagging behind and determine how to improve their access to these opportunities. Let me highlight a few points on the performance of the economy in the second quarter of this year. On the demand side, investments had been the highest contribution of 5.7% percentage points to the GDP growth. Investments in durable equipment, sector investments in construction, which grew at 8.3% from 8.1% in the first quarter. This growth was driven by stronger business confidence, low interest rates, and strong performance of the construction sector. Public spending remained strong, driven by the boom in public construction and government consumption. And government consumption grew by 27.8% and 13.5% respectively. Similarly, private consumption grew stronger in comparison to the previous quarter and year, due to the low inflation and interest rates, improved labor market conditions, and steady consumers' confidence. Overall, domestic demand growth accelerated by 12.3% from 12% in the first quarter of 2016. In contrast, external demand weakened further as exports of goods and services continued to slow down to 6.6% despite the 15.3% growth of services exports. Conversely, imports of goods rose to 22.9%, largely due to increased purchases of capital goods and durables, which indicate an increase of investments from firms. Services imports remained strong at 13.3%, significantly higher than the 10.3% in the previous quarter. On the supply side, the acceleration of economic growth was fairly broad-based. The high growth recorded for the first quarter this year was driven by gains in industry and the services sectors. The industry sector recorded a growth of 6.9%, which is higher than 6.1% in the previous year, supported by manufacturing, construction, and utilities. Additionally, the services sector recorded an 8.4% growth on the back of faster growth in trade, transport, communication, public administration, and real estate, renting, and business activities. In contrast to the robust industry and services, the performance of the agriculture sector remains dismal at negative 2.1% due to the lingering effects of El Nino. There's also a developing risk of La Nina, the La Nina phenomenon that will likely intensify between the months of August and October this year. This highlights the urgency of crafting holistic development policies that include disaster resiliency. This will benefit workers from the sector, which employs the largest chunk of the labor force. For La Nina, the Department of Agriculture is already crafting an action plan that identifies the most vulnerable municipalities, focusing on appropriate investments, preparedness, response, immediate recovery, and rehabilitation. Moving forward, despite the good numbers for the first semester of 2016, there is still a risk of seeing lower growth in the second half of the year. This is a normal occurrence during election years. It commits to its agenda of maintaining consistent macroeconomic policies so that business and consumer confidence will remain strong. Also, we shouldn't forget that we will need to continue the recovery efforts from the El Nino phenomenon to get the agriculture sector back on its feet. Over the medium term, the new administration is aiming still for a steady acceleration of growth towards 7 to 8% beyond this year. This will be supported by sustained and deepened reforms. These include a comprehensive tax reform, sustained investment in infrastructure, easing of restrictions on foreign investments, reduction of the cost of doing business, and strengthening of agro-industrial linkages. While we discuss these economic numbers, it is important to recognize that these should be treated as means to an end. What really matters is that welfare, especially of the least among us, is improved. This is articulated in the 0 to 10 socio-economic agenda of President Duterte, especially when he said that we will adopt a human capital approach to development. And that is the subject of this conference, the forum that's going on. We are thus concerned about the decline of the output of agriculture and fisheries for 5 quarters in succession. Knowing that the majority of poor Filipinos rely on this sector for their livelihood, the administration will prioritize agricultural development within the broader framework of rural and regional development. Even as we address the current issues that affect well-being, we are cognizant of the importance of having a long-term vision for the country. Several dimensions of well-being require that 6 years to attain this desired state. Being able to enjoy long and healthy lives will involve addressing health issues from conception to birth, through the first 1,000 days to adolescence, health issues related to schooling, work, and old age, and so on. To have a smart and innovative society, we need substantial investments in education from K to 12, higher education, including technical and vocational education and training, and possibly retooling. Higher education, including building on a high-trust society will require restoring confidence in public institutions, cultivating trust among peoples, groups, and cultures, all the way to instilling national pride and identity. All this require time and foundations, and the foundations will need to be laid down now. NEDA has launched early this year the Ambition Natin 2040. Centered on people's aspirations, this aims to answer the clamor for having a long-term perspective in development planning so as to sustain efforts, even with changes in political administrations, to provide a strong, rooted, comfortable, and secure life for all, known as matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. NEDA continues to advocate and discuss Ambition Natin 2040 with different stakeholders from various sectors of society. Attaining the ambition is a big challenge, especially for the current administration that is tasked with laying the foundations and essentially the springboard needed to reach new heights of the economy and society. As I speak before you today, there's an ongoing social development initiatives summit right next door, where government meets with civil society to feel their pulse as Filipinos. Before this, we have already met with the business sector last June 20 to 22. We will continue this partnership because we know that this challenge can be met with nothing less than a whole of government coupled with a whole of society approach. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pernia. Before I proceed to the open forum, please remain seated as we distribute the press kit to each and every member of the media present today. Rest assured that we have enough copies for everyone. We now proceed to the open forum. We also have questions coming in from Manila live via telecom. So we would like to remind everyone to please wait to be acknowledged. Kindly introduce yourself by giving your name and organization before asking your question. Yes, please.
Good morning. My name is Mikael Flores of Nikkei, the Japanese economic newspaper. Just a clarification, the capital formation, the growth of 27.6% is the fastest since when? And to Dr. Secretary Pernia, in the first quarter we've seen capital formation growth of 26.6% and 27.6%. Is this already a sign that the overall structure of the economy is rebalancing towards investment-led growth from consumption-led growth? Thank you.
The rebalancing phenomenon has been going on already, even in the previous administration. So I guess we need to sustain that rebalancing toward investment-driven growth, especially investment that is going to lead to more inclusive, more poverty-reducing and inequality-reducing economic growth.
Capital formation is highest since second quarter of 2013, which was 33.4.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Yes, please.
May buntag ka na itong tanan. Ako si Joey Sam Galupinas sa Philippine Information Agency Davao Region. To Secretary Ernesto Pernia, sir, may buntag kanimo. May we know the critical issues that affect the quality of life among Filipinos which need immediate intervention through sound policies of government?
Yes, I think an immediate one is to make sure that new births, new babies, in fact, before when they're conceived, they have proper nutrition from the womb to at least the second year of their maturation, the end of the second year. Those are the first 1,000 days that are very critical to further human development of individuals. And of course, it's obvious that the poor would have a clear disadvantage relative to the upper income classes. So there is really a need to emphasize that point, because if children are not properly taken care of, or nourished, nutritious food during those first 1,000 days, and in fact, others say up to 6 years old, then their future is not going to be as fulfilling, as life-fulfilling, and the human potential is unlikely to be fully accomplished if that is not done early. So we really have to emphasize poverty reduction and make sure that parents are sensitized to these issues. And of course, investment in education and investment in healthcare, quality education and healthcare beyond those early growing years of children would be critical.
Thank you, sir. Another concern is this question on inclusive economic policies, which this administration would push through in the next 2 quarters of the year or the next 5 years to guarantee consistent food on the table, especially among the poor families.
Rose, I was thinking of something else when you were speaking, so I give it to Yusek.
Yes, Madam Gillion.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the socioeconomic, the 10 plus 0 to 10 socioeconomic agenda of President Duterte, the agricultural development. But this time it will be more comprehensive because it will be about regional and rural development. It's about food security. It's about ensuring that you're right, that there will be food on the table and that quality of life will be improved. We're also talking about greater resiliency because, as you know, as already mentioned by the Secretary, agriculture has been on a decline for 5 quarters now, and much of this is really because of its vulnerability to disasters. And so the resiliency, especially of the households that depend on that sector for its livelihood, will also be addressed.
Salamat po.
We have a question from Manila.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Bernier. Yes, sir. Given President Duterte's campaign on illegal drugs, is the NETA considering including the computation of illegal industries such as drugs in the computation of GDP? I ask this, sir, because some other European countries are already doing this, like I think Italy, UK, so that their debt to GDP ratio they do that so that it gets lower.
Well, that is a good point, except that that will require some innovation in our statistical system. So we'll probably do that at some future time when we're able to think more seriously about them, and then then develop the metrics that you're talking about. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
Good morning. I am Cecily Yap of Bloomberg. Sir, you talked about the risks of La Nina and that it will likely intensify August to October. What's our plan in terms of rice imports? Will we be importing rice this quarter? And how much would it be? Would it be a government-to-government transaction?
No, as I'm informed, I think our rice on stock will be sufficient for the rest of the year. So, but then we need to import now, right now, to prepare for the deficiency next year. That will be sure to come. So we should really do that now, while the price of rice is more affordable. Otherwise, we will experience what happened in 2013 to 2015 when the price of rice spiked sharply, such that poverty incidence, so the number of poor, just shot up.
What's the volume you're looking at in terms of?
The immediate volume will be about 250,000 metric tons, yes. But I think we are, then the next tranche of importation will be about 250,000 metric tons, and the next set will be about 500. To be really secure about rice security over the next, not only, over the next year, 2017. Yes.
Morning. For Mr. Pernia, sir, you're already expecting a slowdown in the second half post-election spending. What's the plan to boost second half growth? Perhaps more aggressive infra spending as announced, and will this be specific to agri-related infrastructure, or are you expecting boost from specific subsectors?
Yes, well, the slowdown in the second semester, the third quarter and fourth quarter, is has been a normal phenomenon by looking at previous years. So, well, some of that slowdown can be slowed down, can be decelerated if we have things to counter that possibility. And yes, you're right. Maybe we should focus on agriculture, agricultural enhancement in agricultural productivity, which means improved irrigation systems, even small-scale irrigation, hand pump type of irrigation, which can be made available much faster, and that kind of thing should be introduced. And I think the Agriculture Secretary is has been quite active, and he is cognizant of the sluggishness, the lethargy of the agriculture sector. So we hope he's listening, and I'm sure he doesn't need to be told. He's probably doing something already. He's been going around the country. He's very diligent in going around the country and seeing to it that he can find ways of improving rice and agriculture in general productivity. Other sectors, other sectors. Well, I guess we probably need to continue investor confidence, the investment climate, so that foreign direct investment especially will come in, and even local investors will continue to be bullish about the prospect of the economy. So that's on the demand side. And consumption, well, usually the Christmas season, the Burr months are starting next month already, and there tends to be stronger consumption spending during the last 4 months of the year. So I guess those are the unless my colleagues here can say something.
We also believe that with respect to the private sector, the momentum is already there. So there was a boost in the manufacturing, specifically printing, publishing, because of the election, election-related spending. But we think that for the rest of the sectors, in particular your tourism, your construction, that will carry on until the end of the year. Plus plus government programs, all the construction programs are still ongoing, and that will, how do you say that, slow down the slowdown. Moderate the deceleration. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Dr. Bernie and the rest of the people at the Presidential Table. I am Mr. Suponyo Hukutan from the Davao City Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I represent the private sector, the business sector. My question is about the spending on infrastructure in Mindanao. The GDP percent of GDP intended for Mindanao and the rest of the country is 33% because Manila, Metro Manila and Calabar zone is getting 67% of the 3.5% of GDP intended for infrastructure. That is what I heard during the consultation, Mr. DJ. We are getting 32%, and that is for the rest of Luzon, for Visayas, and for Mindanao. And Mindanao is actually getting the crumbs. We businessmen actually will rely very much on infrastructure. Of course, seaports here are actually made by the private sector. And the government seaport is too small for the products of southeastern Mindanao. The question now is this, or this is related to the statement that you privately told me when I approached you after the consultation. You said, what is intended for Mindanao is long overdue. That rings into my ear. It is long overdue. Okay, if it is long overdue, the next question there is, since when was the overdue for Mindanao? I say that is since 1946, when the Philippine Republic we have our own president, and all these developments since then are in Metro Manila and Calabar zone. We have the NLX, NLAX, SLAX, and we have the hundreds of overpass and underpass. We have anything else in Luzon. And I was elated when you said that Mindanao, what is intended for Mindanao is long overdue. Okay, if that is long overdue, what are in the pipelines for the development of infrastructure in Mindanao? I am directing this to Dr. Pernia, our Director General of NIDA. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's exactly what 1946, but I guess it's long overdue. There's one huge project that is being considered and being prepared for in terms of how to do it or where to get the funds, and that is the Mindanao Railway System that's going to go around. Actually, eventually, when it's completed, it will go around the island of Mindanao. It's about 2,000 kilometers long. But the way that's going to be handled is to do it in segments. The first segment will start from Davao to going northeast. So going around the eastern part of the island of Mindanao toward Cagayan de Oro. And there's also there are two segments there already between. So in that in that length of railways of the railway system, there are the two segments there. But it's definitely going to start in Davao and then go around, and in terms of completing that railway system, the entire thing, it's probably going to go beyond the administration of President Duterte, but it's certainly going to be started soon, perhaps next year. Okay, and then I think tourism infrastructure will be important because Mindanao is becoming a tourism destination, and there's a lot of potential, as well as agricultural development. Infrastructure for agricultural development should be pursued, and that's going to be the plan for infrastructure investment will be in the medium-term development plan of the Philippines, because we have a section there on investment programming, or where the investments are going to be proposed or planned over the next six years. And seaports, I think, are also already signed, or it's going to, some huge project involving a new seaport and reclamation of certain portions of the coast along Davao City will be started. So there was a signing of this agreement already last June 22nd, I think it was. Yes. So those are the projects that are.
Those are very elating. We are happy to have heard this directly from you. The next question is that how can we do it with that very small percentage of the GDP? We said that the 67% of the budget for GDP, which is 3.5 or 3.4% of GDP, budget for infrastructure. 67% of that will go to Calabar Zone and Metro Manila. Okay, so what is left is the 33%, and that is too small. Where will we get the funding of these very nice projects that you might mention, especially the coastal development, which is actually from Santa Ana Wharf up to Sirawan, I guess, and that is a very good project. And what will take a lot of money, and where will we get the money if what is allocated for infrastructure is very meager, very small? Will it be funded somewhere else by some other means or whatever? Thank you.
Let me correct you. The two-thirds of the two-thirds, one-third that was mentioned, that has to do in terms of the contribution to GDP of the different regions, Calabar Zone, Metro Manila, and Central Zone, contributing about two-thirds, about 65-66% to GDP. But that's it's not directly related with the infrastructure budget. Although there may be some connection between the buoyancy of those three regions vis-a-vis the other regions. The money is not really a major consideration because there's so many investors interested in being involved in those projects, both local businessmen and foreign investors, as well as ODA, Official Development Assistance. So that is not, well, we just need to make sure that we get the best terms in terms of this sharing of investment between private and public. For example, we don't want a sovereign guarantee to be well. We don't want to burden the government with a lot of sovereign guarantees on public-private partnerships, for example, and also some subsidies have been required in earlier investments of the public-private partnership modality. So those are really the things that need to be considered. It's not so much the source of funding. Thank you.
Yes.
Sir, just to clarify, just to go back to the importation that you mentioned. Sir, so that's 250,000, then 250,000, and then another 500,000 metric tons. So you're talking about 1 million. Is that over and above the MAV, or does that already include the MAV?
Yeah, it's part of the MAB is part of it, and the plan, I think, is to, as of the last time we discussed this, which is a month ago, was that the first 500,000 metric tons will be G2G, and then perhaps the next installment, 250, and then 250 also in the next after the first 500,000 will be through using the MABs.
Sir, is this a recommendation of NEDA to the NFA Council, or is that already a decision made by the NFA Council?
It's not a recommendation of that. It's a discussion among those concerned agencies, those involved in formulating a rice importation plan. And DINEDA is part of the party or the committee that looks into how to best approach the importation of rice.
So that's the rice is expected to arrive next year, starting first quarter, or at the end of the year?
Well, the first trans, hopefully, if it has started, if they have started acting on it, should be arriving within the year, over the next few months, so that we are prepared for the coming months that we will have rice deficits.
Sir, how much yung impact ng La Nina on economic growth in the second half? May estimate na po ba?
We do not yet have an estimate. In any case, the probability, we're looking at the different forecasts. The probability is at 50 to 60%. So it's still actually not quite high. And if ever we do have a La Nina, we expect it to be a mild La Nina.
Still have 2 more questions. Yes, please.
Good morning po. I'm Ben Valero of Philippine Daily Caller. Have the PSA and NEDA measured the impact in terms of percentage point of election spending during the first half? Or is it safe to say, Secretary earlier mentioned in the second half, 1.5 to 2 percentage points lower, so yun kaya yung difference?
I don't, there's definitely an impact, but I don't think I don't think we need to quibble about the how much exactly, because it doesn't really matter so much. I guess we can go into more detailed investigation of the contribution of election spending, but that will require some work too, because you would have to trace where the money, where the election spending is going to, because there would be multiplier effects too. So there will be a direct effect and an indirect effect. Yes, and we are going to have elections this November, incidentally. The Barangay, and Kabataan SK elections. So, you know, that would have an impact also on the growth rate, on the consumption side, on the demand side.
Yes.
Secretary Pernia, one of the cornerstone economic strategies under President Duterte is to expand growth outside Metro Manila and the nearby regions. What's the overall strategy and what are the policy interventions that we're seeing in the near to medium term to attract investors outside the capital? Thank you.
Well, I think the campaign of the President for peace and order is going to help already by itself. Peace and order. Peace and order in Mindanao, peace and order in Visayas, and other parts of Luzon will already be an inducement for investors. But in terms of the details, in terms of the programming of investment, that will come out in the new Filipino or Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, which is being crafted now by NEDA in consultation with the other departments of the government. So, but definitely there will be more emphasis on investment and economic growth in the other regions, especially the Mindanao and the Visayas regions, which do need a lot of infrastructure investment as well as private sector investment.
Just a quick follow-up. Are you eyeing fiscal incentives or perks to potential investors in order for them to lure them to invest in the countryside?
Well, no, not really. We are not too keen on coming up with new fiscal incentives for investment because there's already enough attraction to invest in these regions and all. So, and in fact, we are rationalizing, we are reviewing our fiscal incentives system.
If I may add to that, actually there are already investment incentives related to that. But what we're looking at more carefully or hopefully is a possible crowding in, so that as the government takes on this more investments in outside of Metro Manila, particularly Visayas and Mindanao, then the other investors would follow suit because they will now see that there's already development happening in this. So I mean, it's like Secretary has said, it's a springboard. So government will lay down those foundations and the springboard.
Just a quick follow-up. What are the key industries that you are eyeing to attract first that would lure more investors or that would crowd in more investors moving forward?
I think tourism is really, it can be a champion as well as agriculture and ports and roads. Roads are needed in many places in areas outside the Metro Manila urban industrial region that includes Calabarzon and Central Luzon. So there's still a lot of things to do so that Metro Cebu, for example, and Metro Davao can be competitive with Metro Manila eventually.
Yes.
Ayan, Sir of Philippine News Agency, Davao. I would like to follow up on the Mindanao Railway System. Do we have offers already for funding from other funding agencies? Or are there offers for partnership with others?
Well, China is interested uh, Japan has, Japan has also expressed interest in being involved uh, in this endeavor, and but I don't know if Japan and China can get together in a friendly manner, in this very network for Mindanao. So it's probably going to be either Japan or China, but China is very eager, and Japan, in fact, is feels it has to do more salesmanship to be able to beat China in this regard. It could be ODA partly, so it's not really just one type of investor or investment. It can be a combination.
So on another issue, Mindanao is agri-based, and it is also the priority of the current administration. Since agri-industry is continue to decline for the past quarters, how would government accelerate the implementation of the policies, the 10-point agenda of the administration, in order for a government to arrest the continued decline of the agri-industry?
Well, it's not non-agricultural enterprises in the rural areas. It's the decline has to do with agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, I think, in general. So, in terms of agribusiness, if you mean industry, if you mean industries in agriculture, not farm type of activity, we don't have that statistic. No? Like food manufacturing would be agribusiness or agri-industry, but we don't have statistics on that. Do we? No. So it's your impression is that the agri-industry is on the decline. It's the agriculture sector that has shown negative growth rate over the past several quarters. Yeah. Well, we just need to improve the infrastructure in agriculture. I think irrigation is one deficiency in the agricultural sector. Farm-to-market roads, and we also need to irrigation, and we need to do there's need to do something about the intermediation between farmers and middlemen. The intervention done by middlemen between farmers and the market, so that farmers do not get shortchanged in the exchange, in the transaction. So that because poverty is more severe in agriculture than in other sectors of the economy.
If I may add, for the second half of the year, we actually expect the agriculture sector to recover, hopefully significantly. So based on the expectations of the planting intentions, based on the planting intentions, it will recover quite quickly. But even as that happens, then the different interventions to improve productivity also need to be in place. Irrigation, as already mentioned, will have to be there. I think the new secretary is also looking at more access to better technology, better seeds, in order to increase the yield of the agriculture sector.
Closing question? Yes, please.
I am Nilo Mione from the Philippine Ports Authority. As it is, I am in the port industry, so It used to be that sa-asa, or rather 80% of sa-asa volume comes from the banana industry. So based on your statistics, may I know if the banana industry in Davao is expanding or contracting? Second thing is, how much is the present contribution of the mining sector to the export industry? And do we have a specific product that we can look forward to as a potential export commodity, just like the banana? I'm asking this question because these are the most available cargo right now in the ports, and we are planning a lot of international ports lately, and so far we only have one product to look forward to. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. I don't have the specific numbers right now, but if I recall correctly, the banana industry indeed contributes a lot to the exports of the country, and most of those bananas are coming from this part of the country. It's been on the healthy side, except that it was also affected by El Nino in this particular reporting period. So medyo bumaba ng kaunti, but I think it's basically keeping us afloat in the total exports for bananas. Yeah. What's the other question? Mining and quarrying to the export sector. The first thing that we would report about mining and quarrying is that it's actually down by 16% during this quarter. The whole output of mining and quarrying, and to total export, that's something else. We can provide you later with it. So we have the numbers, but it's in the kit that was distributed earlier. Page 57 of this publication, you will have the share of the different industry groups of mining, you have copper mining, etc., etc. Iba-iba sila. Yung nickel mining is down by 37%, pero yung chromite is up by 51.8 during this quarter. Although in the total, it's down by almost 10%.
How about do you have any specific product that could be a potential export in the future, just like banana? Right now, here?
Well, pineapple, you also export pineapple, right?
We are doing that now, sir.
Okay. About coffee and cacao, I understand, have a good potential, as well as even coconuts. Yeah, so those are, potentially profitable exports if they are developed.
Actually, as mentioned by the Deputy National Statistician this evening, because of El Nino, our banana growth rate is down, and it's down by 3.7% for this quarter, and it actually contributes 37.98% of export. So we have actually the details in the kit. We can help you find them.
Yeah, well, just thinking out loud, why don't you try to develop the pomelo industry further? It should be in demand in the export market, as well as durian. So it can be in frozen form, right? So mangosteen. So there are a number of fruits, I think, coming from Davao or from Mindanao that ought to be explored for further development toward the exports.
We have a question from Manila. Can we have the question repeated, please? We can entertain the question later. Questions in yes. We'll entertain the question later.
Why use a better...
Yeah, we'll entertain the questions here first in the room. Yes, please.
Morning, Angelo Morales from Reuters. Sir, just to clarify, you mentioned we need 5.1% growth in the second half so we can achieve at least the lower end of the target. What would be the growth we need for the second half to achieve the higher end of the target? And in the second half of the year, what's the assumption for agriculture? Will it be continuously a drag to the economy in the second half?
Well, to achieve the higher end of the target, we would need a growth rate for the second semester higher than 7%, right? Because we now have 6.9. You want to raise that beyond 7%, you need a growth higher than maybe 7.2% or something like that for the second semester.
Agriculture, sir.
For agriculture. Well, agriculture will have to be positive for sure. And but then it should not be offset by declines in the other sectors.
We can now have the question from Manila. Close the press conference. Thank you. So we are closing the press conference. Thank you very much and good morning. Sorry.
I wanted to say something first, just because the Secretary mentioned tourism. So may I just inform all that the Philippine Statistics Authority also maintains a satellite account on tourism. And we actually issued a press release on June 17 to report to you on the contribution of tourism to the economy. It has been growing. The contribution for 2015 to the GDP is 8.2%. It was up from 7.5% in the previous, in 2014, 7.2% in 2013, from 6.8 in 2011. So please look at the website of the PSA to learn more about our report on the satellite account. And just one more, the PSA indeed looked at the various industries that have been had an impact, for which election has impact. And this was also mentioned earlier, but may I just report to you that aside from printing and publishing, PSA noted from its study that, of course, land transportation, water transportation, air transportation were up, communication as well, wholesale trade, retail trade, real estate, renting and business activities, hotel and restaurants, as well as recreational and cultural. So maybe we can approach one of our PSA technical staff if you want to learn more about this. Thank you very much.
Sir, following question from Celerina Monte. Sir, 7 or 8 mining firms have been suspended by the DNR. How will this affect the economy and the investments in this industry?
Question, 7 or 8 mining firms have been suspended by the DNR. How will this affect the economy and investments in this industry?
Overall, mining and quarrying contribute 1% to GDP growth, no? Or to GDP. So, yeah, well, it's a bit small. 0.7, even less than 1%. So it shouldn't impact noticeably or substantially on GDP.
Yes, thank you very much.
We should also note that the contraction in the mining and quarrying industry of almost 10%, minus 9.7%, is really because the decline in prices, commodity prices, world prices, especially for nickel and copper.
So we now finally conclude the press conference. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you to everyone for coming and participating in the press conference.